Students, in today's video we are going to take up the last section of Browning's famous dramatic monologue, Andrea del Sarto. I'm grown peaceful as old age tonight. In these lines, the poet says, or rather, Andrea says, that today he is feeling as peaceful, as calm and composed as one feels when one has reached the stage of maturity. That means, in old age, people are not agitated very much by the ups and downs of lives, because up till now they just compromise with their circumstances. So he somehow feels the same at present, and he has also surrendered himself to his present situations. I regret little, I would change still less. He says, I regret for whatsoever happened in my life. I regret very little for that. That means I don't care much for whatsoever happened in my life. I would change still less, and had it been in my power to change what happened, I would prefer to change very less. See, it's very ironical, because throughout the poem he had been complaining of the things lacking in his life, and suddenly he says that he is satisfied with whatsoever he has, and he has lost the desire to change anything. Since there my past life lies, why alter it? He says, now at this juncture, I can just look back at the things that happened in my life, and I don't want to alter it. I don't want to change it. Why should I change it? He's just asking himself. The very wrong to Francis. It is true. I took his coin, was tempted and complied. He says the first thing that strikes his mind when he talks about changing, when he talks about altering the certain things in his life, the first thing that strikes his mind is the wrong that he had done to King Francis. He had taken his money and just spent that money on buying a house for himself instead of buying artifacts for King Francis, as ordered by him. So definitely he was guilty for this act. But he says, the very wrong to Francis, it is true. I took his coin, was tempted and complied. He says, it's true, I accept, I don't deny it. I accept that I took the money from King Francis. I was tempted to, I was just attracted towards doing so. And I did what my heart said to me, and built this house and sinned. He says, I have built this house by the money which was given by King Francis to me for buying articles for the court. Instead of that, I just spent the money in buying this house and sinned, and naturally it's a sin. I have committed a crime. And all is said. But he says, I have said all about it. I don't want to just prolong this thing. Whatever I had in my mind regarding this, I have discussed already with you people, or rather with Lucrezia. My father and my mother died of want. Well, had I riches of my own? He says, now he is just giving you arguments in support of what his present, you can say, stand is upon his circumstances. See, he has surrendered himself to his circumstances, and now he is giving excuses in support of his stand. He says, my father and mother died of want. They died poor. They died in poverty, and whatever riches, whatever money I had, was that my own? You see how one gets rich. Now here's a philosophical strike. He says, we all know how people become rich. Definitely they have to toil much, as well as not only they have to labor, but also one must be lucky enough to bear the fruits of one's labor. Let each one bear his lot. Now this is highly philosophical line. He says, in this world everyone is bound to bear one's lot, one's whatever is there in one's fate, one has to bear that, and it's a well known fact. So, all through this paragraph, the painter who was up till now complaining about Lucrezia's not paying attention towards him, and who was dissatisfied with his achievements, whatever he had achieved up till now, he was not very happy with that. He always complained, up till now he was complaining that he deserved more. Suddenly there is a shift in his tone, and now we find him, you can say, compromising with the present situation. Now these are the last lines of this great poem. They were born poor, lived poor, and poor they died. He's talking about his parents. He says they were born poor, they were born in poverty, and throughout their life they had been poor, and finally they died in poverty. And I have labored somewhat in my time and not been paid profusely. And he says, even I, throughout my life, I had been working very hard, but did not get the money I deserved. Some good son paint my 200 pictures, let him try. He says, people here in this world, they are trying even to achieve success as much as even as much as I have achieved. They want to achieve that, so let them try. No doubt there is something strikes a balance. Yes, you loved me quite enough. He says, although in this world, in this life, I have missed so many things which I wanted but I did not get. But at least there is a kind of balance in my life, and that balance is the presence of Lucrezia. He gives full credit to Lucrezia. He says, there had been many kinds of wants in my life, but God has given me a gift also in the form of my wife Lucrezia. You loved me quite enough. See, in this end portion, somehow we feel that whatever he had complained in the previous lines, now he is just trying to you can say, change altogether his stand. He says, up till now he was complaining that Lucrezia did not love him enough, and suddenly he says, you loved me quite enough. So it's quite ironical. It seems tonight, he says, when I just reflect on the life that I have passed up till now, I feel as if you loved me enough. This must suffice me here. Here stands for earth. He says, in this life, whatever I have achieved, I should feel satisfied with that. What would one have? In heaven, perhaps, new chances, one more chance. He says, what can one have in heaven after death? Definitely I'll be going to heaven. Then what will be my status there? He says, in heaven, perhaps new chances, one more chance. He says, perhaps in heaven I'll be given more chances, I'll be given more recognition. 4 great walls in the New Jerusalem, meted on each side by the angels read. This is the imagination of or pictorial presentation of heaven. Whatever is there in the mind of Andrea about heaven, he is just discussing that, sharing that. He says, perhaps when I'll reach heaven, the heaven will be a particular area covered by 4 great walls of New Jerusalem, and it will be covered on each side by angels read. For Leonard, Raphael, Agnello and me to cover the 3 first without a wife. And there, when I'll die and I'll reach heaven, there I'll be sharing space with great painters like Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael and Michelangelo. And along with these 3, I'll be there. I'll be admitted into the same circle over there in heaven. To cover the 3 first without a wife, there will be only this difference, that those 3 great painters won't be having their wife. They didn't have any wife, but I have, while I have mine. So somehow he feels privileged. He says, when I'll die, I'll reach heaven, and surely I'll be admitted to the circle of great painters, which includes Raphael, Angelo, and Leonardo da Vinci. And with these three great painters, I'll also be included. But even then, I'll be privileged. I'll be having an edge over them because I'll be having my wife. I have my wife, well, these three don't have. So still they overcome because there's still Lucrezia as I choose. He says, even then, uh, again, he starts the blame game. This last line is again just turning this poem head over heels. He says, still they will be better than me. First he says, I have my mind, that means I am privileged, but suddenly he shifts the tone. He says, they will be overcoming me because I have Lucrezia with me. See, there is a wavering stand. As far as he is concerned, he is wavering again and again in his stand about his wife, regarding his wife. As I choose, he says, I have chosen my wife, so these three will definitely overcome me. They will be more popular than me, and they have been more popular than me because of this factor, because they did not have any wife, so they worked according to their own whims and wishes, whereas I had to follow the dictates of my wife. So even after death, when I'll be admitted to their circle, there also they will be the one who will be privileged. Again the cousins whistle, go my love. And finally he surrenders. The lover of his wife is whistling again and again impatiently, which is a sign to call Lucrezia outside. And Andrea is aware of this fact. So finally, when the cousin whistles again, he surrenders, and he just permits his wife to leave. So in this paragraph, we find that there is a sudden change in the tone. Earlier he was trying to just you can say he was trying to just cope up with the feeling that whatever he has, he deserved that. But towards the end, he shifts the blame again to his wife, and he says that he could have been, after death, he will be admitted to the circle of great painters, but even there, he will be underprivileged because of his wife, whom he had followed all through his life. And finally, he surrenders, and he says that the cousin, the lover of his wife, is whistling outside, so he allows her to go. So this was all about this poem. It was a great composition by Browning, and see the elements, all the elements of dramatic monologue are very much visible in this particular poem. And see, Andrea is the speaker talking to Lucrezia. There is sort of character revelation in this, and we find not only the character of Lucrezia is being you can say explored, but also revealed, but also Andrea's own character is being revealed through the whole poem. So it is a superb you can say example of dramatic monologue, and it is considered as one of the best dramatic monologues by Browning. So that's the end of the poem, students. Watch the videos carefully, and if you have any problem, we'll be discussing that in the next video.